Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for technology startups in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. In support of that mission, we do these roundtables week after week after week. We started back in the fall of 2008 with a very early experiment, and now we are on the 575th session. So it's been a very long journey, and by the way, this is how we do the premium roundtables as well. This is the same format. You're just going to get a flavor of how the premium program works as well. You do have access to the curriculum in the premium program. This event is being recorded. Every single public roundtable recording is available on our YouTube channel. The private roundtables are available for members only. And on Twitter, we're at 1Mby1M and at Romana. Today's hashtag is 1M1M. These are the call-in instructions. Your computer audio will also work. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we want you to participate as much as possible. I will put the slide back up a little bit later. First, we have 4 entrepreneur pitches. So we'll get to Q&A in a little bit, but we will get to it. So, bit of expectation setting. We are completely on your side. We have no other agenda. This is not Shark Tank. We're not trying to entertain people by being mean and, snarky and all that. This is a working session. We're going to work on your strategy and have candid brainstorming sessions, strategy brainstorming sessions. If you disagree with my feedback, that is perfectly okay, because it is your venture and you get to do exactly what you please. But I've been doing this for a long time, and the feedback has merit, so consider it. That's all I say. We're going to start with Christy in Uganda. Christy, welcome to the show, and tell us what you're working on.
Thank you very much. So my name is Kristie Drucza, and I founded Includovate almost 3 years ago now. We have around 1.3 million in turnover, and we got up to about 70 employees around the world towards the end of last year. Since then, we've had a few challenges. 70.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yep. So part of what we're doing at Includovate is it's a systems change social entrepreneurship model, whereby we're building research capacity in low-income countries for inclusive and participatory research methods. And our main clients currently are UN agencies, non-government or not-for-profit organizations like CARE or PLAN or Save the Children. We do a lot of evaluations, we collect data, we employ people with disabilities to collect that data. And we have a sistership social license model. So we have an office in Ethiopia. We've recently got one in Papua New Guinea, and these are independently owned and owned by female entrepreneurs in those countries. So we say that we incubate researchers. We also incubate women to run research and consulting firms as well. Next slide, please. So why Includovate broadly is needed is having worked in the research for development industry for almost 20 years, consulting firms that currently service this industry have a tendency to be sort of transactional, don't go through ethical review boards, not necessarily applying safeguarding principles to protect children, women, and others who don't have power and access. And they also don't provide diversity and inclusion services. So what we're doing is focusing on quality knowledge generation and data. We're focusing on systems change and ensuring that we have a suitable ecosystem for inclusion over a period of time. Current institutes or universities are bloated bureaucracies, and they're very hierarchical and expensive, where we say we're nimble. We don't just employ the elite. and we help to build and nurture research capacity in a more independent setting. There's an overuse of quant surveys, and a lot of them tell you how many people are missing out, but they don't necessarily tell you why. And where, rather than talking at people, we focus on co-creation of knowledge and value exchange. So we try and build capacity in our clients without the use of jargon. Next slide, please. So I've talked a little bit about our turnover so far. Our average contract size is 60,000 USD. We are wanting to pivot a little bit because we're on the boom bust of most research and consulting firms, and we want to be able to survive during the lean periods by having a different revenue stream. We also would like to improve the knowledge out there and the service provision for inclusion and diversity in low-income countries. So next slide, please.
This is the turnover you call revenue, right? That is the total sales?
Yep.
And this is in Australian dollars?
US dollars.
What is AUD?
Where does it say AUD?
You have gross turnover.
AUD is Australian dollars, but I'm sorry. The turnover, you're right. It's in Australian dollars. Sorry. So 1.3 in US dollars approximately.
Okay, that was my question. All right.
Yep. So in part of this pivoting to get different product sales and to have a more consistent revenue stream, especially during the lean periods, we wanted to tap into more of the diversity and inclusion market that's growing. As you know, what's been happening in the US over the last few years is a big push for diversity and inclusion. And a lot of that is coming from telecom and IT, banking, financial services as well, small, medium enterprises, and development agencies, which we are very comfortable with. But if they were operating, for example, in Ethiopia, a big company, they wouldn't be able to locally find diversity and inclusion services that were fit for purpose. It's very, very nascent and it's cultural specific. So imagine that you're a big multinational company, you've got a factory in Ethiopia, which is now producing a lot more clothing, but you've got absentee problems, you've got high turnover, sexual harassment and bullying, conflict, etc. Your middle managers and upper managers are from different countries that you've brought in to manage your new industry and enterprise. And you've got an inclusion problem, but your managers don't understand the local country, they don't understand the culture necessarily, or how to tackle some of these within the workforce problems. And there's no local service provider that can speak to a global client.
Christy, I'm going to stop for a moment. Can you tell me, in the interest of time, so that I can add value in the allocated time for you, these $60,000 contracts that you've been doing, can you specifically talk about what use cases, as we call them, what problems, what pain points have you solved that have generated these $60,000 contracts?
Yep, sure. So largely it's about demonstrating impact in a project that's already received funding, multi-million-dollar projects, and they want to prove their impact or prove accountability to their donor or funders. Projects may hire us to find out, is it feasible to do this kind of project in this particular country or many other countries? And usually we focus on youth, gender, disability.
Is applications for donors, from donors?
Applications from donors? Sorry, explain that.
Is that the primary use case where you get brought in, where there is somebody applying for a grant from a donor and that's where you come into the picture? Is that the particular scenario where you hit these big numbers?
Not necessarily. I mean, often it's a UN agency wants to understand a particular issue in a number of countries and they put out a request for proposals and we apply for that, and then we come in and we get the research and data, turn it into reports and recommendations and presentations, as one example.
How big is the UN business from a total available market size point of view? So how many such RFP calls get put out every year?
I do not have the answer to that figure, because this is a pivot for us. So that's what we're doing, and we want to pivot. So you're focusing on sort of the former, but I can find that out.
So my question, the reason I'm asking you this question is because it's always easier to build a business where you have track record, and you're telling me you want to pivot out of that business, and I'm going to question that assumption. I'm going to question that assumption and ask you to investigate what is the TAM in the UN business? What is your go-to-market strategy for the UN business? How much coverage do you have in the UN business from a market share point of view, from a lead generation point of view? Are you tracking all the RFPs from the UN business? Because the minute you go into, you have track record in the UN business, you have reference accounts, you have, everything works in the UN business. It is a lot easier for you to get more of the UN business than pivot out of the UN business. So we can go to where you want to pivot to and talk about that. But my first feedback to you is that fundamental assumption that you started this conversation with could be incorrect.
Okay. I guess because there's a lean period in the UN business market and the development market. There's no business from like December until March, for example. We're also having to do a lot of education in Ethiopia of our clients who don't want to pay for quality. So part of these particular products that we want to be launching is to help build that market awareness in more affordable, packageable, if you'd like, different products such as the institutional reform service subscription or one-off training or sort of learning circles, for example. So part of this is to build the market awareness to secure more funding and also to build, because we want to leave inclusion as part of the Includovate agenda. There's also this outreach that we haven't been doing that we'd like to be doing with a product and subscription service. More questions?
No, I have a comment, not questions. I have a comment is that who else, operates in that mode, the mode in which you're finding the UN business and executing on the UN business and have generated substantial track record in that business, in that kind of research business is a business I would not write off that easily and dive into something where you have no track record. When you're trying, you haven't talked about it, go ahead and talk about it, but it sounds like you're trying to build something completely different where you have no track record and no experience, and veering away from something where you have substantial experience and substantial track record. And I'm questioning the judgment of that. Go ahead.
Sure. Yep. So I guess I don't see it as veering away. So I see it as expanding our network and forming closer relationships and finding out who's interested in this topic and systems change, and then utilizing those networks as well. So we do a lot of training already. We've been contracted to do training. So now it's about, so with this particular model, we'd have sort of the B2C with the learning hacks or the one-off training. We'd also be looking at doing broader sort of corporate reform projects around inclusion and diversity, which is the institutional reform services. The purpose of the subscription model is what we've found is that we're often asked to come in and people ask us to do this when actually they want this, but they don't know they need this yet and they're not willing to pay for this yet. So we start off with something and then it ends up expanding. So this subscription service model would be, if you have been told to become more inclusive and you don't know where to go or what to do, we have a model, maybe it's $800 a month that you pay for, and you get some advice from our researchers and our experts with different types of disabilities, LGBTI experts, etc. And we can help guide you. We can provide comments on your policies, etc., on your research, on your baselines, without having to have all these separate contracts that are big value or cumbersome. And then as you sort of grow, we'd have another tier. So once you realize what inclusion meant and just how comprehensive it was, we would have a package which might be $2,000 per month, which is where we help you write your policies that you need to have in place to comply with international frameworks to become disability inclusive, gender sensitive, and diversity savvy, let's say. So that's what that subscription service is. And currently that model doesn't exist in international development, and more CEOs of NGOs and companies are looking for that type of work. And it doesn't exist at the moment in the countries where we're working.
Do you have, so to run a subscription service, is it subscription that gives you access to people, or is it subscription that gives you access to curriculum and stuff like that? What are you proposing?
So proposing in the subscription service, what it would be is there'd be some training on certain topics. You could pick and draw down on a few of our training packages as you need it. It could be us providing advice on a certain document that's already been written. It would be 1 or 2 coaching sessions per month or half an hour a week. We haven't quite worked out some of those details.
You haven't packaged the subscription service yet.
We've got different pricing models, but we don't have all the pricing models with what that would look like yet.
Are there potential customers within your existing ecosystem who have, people who have used you already that you can test these models, the packaging of the subscription service on?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's where I would go to, what are people willing to pay for, and how much are they willing to pay for, in what kind of form factor is the question that is the first question you need to answer, and answering that with existing customers would be a very good way to do this.
Yeah, we've done lots of the research around one-off trainings. What we find though is when it comes to UN and NGOs, they're very sensitive when it comes to actual pricing models. We've done a lot of research on other types of pricing models, and we have our own information on how much people are willing to pay for certain things. But being the person's currently sick who's been working on this particular aspect, so I don't have all those details on what we're looking at. The idea is that it's got to match with our costing model. So if you're going to be utilizing an hour of my time a week for something like this, what is that costed out at, as well as what is the market willing to pay?
All right, I'm going to move to the next pitch, and we can come back during Q&A to your, think about what we just discussed, and we can come back to more discussion on your issues. Yeah. Sure. What happened here? Is this a new pitch, or?
No, this is still some reference slides at the end of mine. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, that's the new one.
Rachel is up next. Rachel is part of my literary group, and we've been really enjoying her fantastic contributions.
Oh, we've had so much fun. It's funny. I sort of have these two selves. One is the literary, writer and creative, and then we have the business self. But they definitely do intersect at certain junctures. So I'm so pleased to be able to present to you. Actually, this is probably one of those junctures. So I've been working on Keepler. Keepler is a new dating app that actually, from a business perspective, increases LTV and reduces churn. From a user perspective, increases happiness and deeper connections, and eliminates a lot of the psychological difficulties that people encounter on dating apps. So this is me. While I came to business formally a little bit late, this is now my full-time job. So I've been working on Keepler since business school. Started it in school and took it out, and now we have a wonderful remote but extremely dedicated team that we're working with. Next slide, please. Perfect. So first I'll tell you what's broken. If anyone has been on a dating app, you know this sort of intrinsically, how miserable this experience can be. All of the dating apps out there, so everything from Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, even Grindr, Match, even regardless of what kind of branding they sort of project, they all operate under the same template. So it is generally either a swipe, or sometimes they will give you a circumscribed panel of people to look at. But the way that they operate on the back end is essentially they're using ELO score. So Tinder uses an ELO score to rank people based on popularity, which creates a sort of no nuance is available in the way that you're choosing your partners. When you do have infinite swipe capability, like on Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all these places, it's very difficult to actually discern between different people. It's very difficult to compare. It's difficult to understand who you've seen, and is this person better than this person? Should you reach out? Very difficult to keep track. And what happens in these apps, these apps have no incentive business-wise to actually help you succeed. So they're, I love quoting Hinge's tagline, which is designed to be deleted, which I call nonsense on. They are not designed to be deleted. They very much want to keep you on there, keep you subscribed, keep you single, and this leads to misery. So one of my questions was, what would people pay if they were happy and they actually wanted to continue with a service that they were enjoying and continued value throughout their dating and relationship process? So next slide, please. Wonderful. So the market we're focused on are, I'd like to call them sort of dating app survivors. So these are people who have, for the last 10 years, been on the Tinders, Bumbles, and now Hinges, and nothing has worked. They are in their 30s, 40s, and they're looking around. Maybe some of their friends have met on dating apps despite the dating app, but people are really settling down, and especially on the coasts, which I'll get to later, these dating apps are creating a psychological space in which everyone is pessimistic, jaded, a lot of dissatisfaction with themselves, a lot of looking outward for someone to blame. It's a really toxic environment. So if you have this mindset going into dating, you're setting yourself up to fail. So it's a feedback loop of failure that starts to happen with this older generation who is burnt out from these dating apps. So, and plus the other side of it is, because not only because of this, but this is part of the problem, they are the therapy generation. So these are people for whom therapy has very little stigma. Daters are looking for partners who are also doing the work. So are going to therapy, are dedicated to self-growth, who care about improving their psychological selves, as well as going to the gym or becoming successful in their, in their companies or whatever it is. This is a very important part of partnership for this market. So we thought, how can we combine these in an interesting way? So next slide, please. Perfect. So here is our initial solution. So this is an entire ecosystem. So it's not just a platform for meeting. That exists and that works fine-ish. So what we really want to do is build first a community for dating. So you won't necessarily be meeting someone within the community, but this is a place to aggregate experts, dating experts, relationship therapists, even sex experts, even anything having to do with dating and wellness into one place, so that people who aren't even actively dating can still be part of the Keepler community and pay for this inclusion, and learn different kinds of skills, understand how to improve your own dating profile, how to learn, maybe how to reach out to people, how to handle rejection, how to reject. These are skills that are simply not taught in many places, maybe Cosmo magazine, and those are not great. So instead of this gamification, sitting there swiping at 4 a.m., you're actually learning real skills that can help you make better decisions for yourself. So what we really like to say is, what happens then on the business side is we're increasing the long-term value, the lifetime value of these customers who can stay on within this ecosystem after they've met their match. So this both helps you meet and carries you through your relationship. You're still both creating, so engaging with the community, creating value, and getting value. Next slide, please.
I have a question before you go to the next slide, Rachel.
Sure,
I see a bunch of different service providers who are going to be part of this ecosystem, like the coaches and the relationship experts. I don't see matchmakers in there. Is that something you thought about? because, you know, a friend of mine who got widowed at an advanced age was, you know, it's a very, very difficult time to be, for a female especially, to be widowed at a later age. And she mentioned to me that some of her friends have used these, you know, high-end matchmakers to, so this is something that is working. And my question to you is, matchmakers are an age-old tradition, and I think it's actually a much better, much more elegant way to introduce people.
Absolutely.
And is that part of your thought process?
I would love to have that, actually. That has been in so on the periphery as we start to build that out. I think that what tends to happen is those matchmakers are often out of reach for a lot of people. They can be very expensive. I know one actually in Silicon Valley who charges $1 million to find someone for often the Silicon Valley men, you know, who maybe don't have the social skills to find someone on their own. But so if we can make that accessible to people, and people will pay for this, different tiers is definitely possible to look at. Absolutely, 100%. I think it's a wonderful service to provide.
Because, you know, think about it, if somebody gets to know, here you're trying to get consumers to get to know one another at scale, or at least at some scale. If there is somebody in between who gets to know a smaller number of people more deeply in a particular community and does that matchmaking, I think it's a more effective way to, and then you can create programming around that for that to happen more organically, more naturally.
Absolutely. I think that's phenomenal. I'd love to add that. Brilliant. So maybe there will be a seventh box here, but here is quickly how we are going about this mission. So first, changing up the algorithm. So what happens with a lot of these new dating apps is they say, we have this Nobel Prize winning algorithm. The thing is that no matter what, you know, they actually don't work. They actually, no matter how many prizes they've won, they're based on binary choices that someone makes. Do you want someone who, you know, smokes or doesn't smoke? Do you want someone who drinks or doesn't drink? What that tends to do is erase a lot of nuance in people's lives. If you say, of course, well, you know, there's a difference between having a glass of wine on a Friday night out to dinner and being an alcoholic, and that erases that entire nuance. So the way that we are building our algorithm is actually through sliding sort of Likert scale answers, creating more nuance, building a three-dimensional profile of someone based on what they want in life, as opposed to what they want in someone else. So they're describing themselves so that we can match them with people who might match their lifestyles, because that we found over our research is a better indicator of compatibility than the superficial things like I need to date a banker, right? That doesn't quite work out. Secondly, we have an in real life or IRL feature that will eventually be coming out, in which you can turn it on for 30 minutes. It will show you people who have also turned it on in a particular radius. So it could be half mile, something around there. And there will be safety features built in for verification, for making sure that you want to be approached, that someone else has said, yes, I would like a conversation. So we have some consent things built in there, which has been a problem with dating apps since dating apps started. That has been a major, major issue. So we're very focused on safety and creating as much safety as possible within an unsafe world. We can't solve everything, but this we're giving it a shot. The community is something that is very important to us, and we're actually launching first. So the community is both an in-app feature, and people will be able to follow experts, to participate in conversations, join affinity groups, join interest groups, join topics like exactly dating after divorce, dating after age 50, where's the best place to go on a first date in New York. So places, it's a congregated area for all of this advice, and you don't have to be actively dating to be in it. So it's a way to both acquire customers for the dating platform that we will be launching, but it's also a continually enriching way to interact with people. in terms of
And
our...
one other comment here,
Yep.
Which is, if you're focusing on lifetime customer value as one of the differentiators without making people miserable, there's one issue which I think a lot of adults struggle with is creating friendships in adult life. People are very lonely.
Oh, yes.
And, once you have left school, workplaces are becoming more isolated nowadays. So where do you meet people? How do you expand your network? And especially if you're dating somebody and if you're settling into a new couple relationship, couple to couple matchmaking becomes a whole other complicated dimension.
Yes.
So, so you have the data, you have all this kind of, all this information about these individuals. And if you can apply that knowledge of the community, and it has to be local, it has to be interest-based, etc. You need activity partnerships, sustained activity partnership to develop good relationships. All that data is in your system. If you're looking for lifetime customer value, I would factor that in as an ongoing, feature of the application, which is completely unique. Nobody is thinking about it at all.
I think that's wonderful, and you are absolutely right. And this community is more focused on the friendship and solidarity aspect than even dating in it. So you would be able to put on your profile, I'm open to DMs, direct messages for friendship, for dating. I mean, listen, if somebody is open to that and is willing to be hit on, God bless. Like, make it so. But be able to at least create that kind of consent so that if someone says, yes, I'd love to meet new friends. I live in Park Slope in Brooklyn. I'd love to meet up. I'm just dating someone and we'd love to, go on a picnic with someone. Amazing. Like that'd be incredible. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Money.
Money.
How do you make money?
How do we make money? So one of the things that is so frustrating about other apps is that often either the free version is very, very gate kept. I think that's a new word for our millennium, that there are so many barriers that you have to pay to get better matches. You have to pay to reach out to people, you can buy a virtual rose. You can, it's a very nickel and dime kind of experience that I think people are getting frustrated with. And it doesn't necessarily help. It actually enhances a lot of the bad behavior and the type of social interaction that we want to avoid. So it's very commoditized, and you're buying someone's affections, and it's not what we want to go for. So we have a couple of ways to make money. Yes, it will be a subscription model. So I love Akib's question here, to go to market plan. Yes, it's going to require a lot of marketing dollars. First, the first 100,000 users in New York, so we're launching first in New York, will be free to just create this user base. And then it will be a subscription model, and we will be sharing revenue with these coaches. And actually now, I love this, matchmakers, any kind of expert that comes on, we're providing a massive environment for them to, in which they can work, and they, will be able to get that revenue together. The first 100,000 users we have, we're actually creating our go-to-market right now with community events, with organic marketing, influencer, paid outreach, creating these niche communities within the New York community. So if someone hosts a women's group for single mothers or something, so partnering with a lot of these different already sort of smaller communities to get people onto this into the community at first, and then bring them into the dating app. In terms of spend, so I've been self-funding for a while, and it's time for that more money. So you're absolutely right. It does. The marketing is huge. And we're looking for some money later, and I'll show you that with the use of funds, etc. But this is essentially, for now, the revenue model that we are looking at. So next slide, please. Perfect. So just very, very quickly, this is our initial market. So the SOM here, the current entry point, New York City and boroughs, millennial dating. It's not enormous, but it's not tiny. It's a great place to start. And you can see the total available market, and it's just supposed to grow and grow and grow. This is an evergreen problem. Everyone wants to be loved, partnered, understood.
I don't think anybody questions the size of the market here. The question is really, so, you know, the reality about funding for consumer apps is that the investors want to see traction before they're willing to put in money.
Exactly.
It's a perpetual chicken and egg problem.
Oh, you bet. Keeps me up at night.
So I'm going to push back on your assumption here. The first 100,000 users free is going to be very difficult to get to. So the question is, can you pick communities and the go-to-market strategy with which you get to kind of a reasonable community so that things start happening and you can start charging people early? Because otherwise you will not be able to sustain yourself.
Yes, yes.
You will not get funding and you will not be able to sustain yourself. And that is the zone where people go out of business, and you don't want to do that.
Kiss of death.
What is your burn rate right now?
So right now it's 50K a month. So we have, our developers are absolutely incredible. I've learned so much, so technical things from them, and they're incredibly creative in coming up with solutions for the actual build. So we should be ready to go out with an initial beta app in June. So actually next month. And they are the bulk of the burn.
So to get to cover 50K plus some marketing money is a substantial amount of money that you're going to have to generate through revenue, I think. Yes. Because, I mean, the problem with consumer apps is that people don't fund them unless you can show some significant traction. And how would you get to that significant traction? The other thought that comes to my mind is, would it make sense to go to the alumni associations in New York? Because then you get potentially high quality people into your network and then work off that. So if you can find some silver bullet like that with which you can start generating money, I think that's going to be really, really important.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, I'm very happy to sort of scale back on the 100K, and I think this initial beta experiment will give us more direction into are people like, take my money, or are they, I'm never going to pay for this. So I think that'll help a lot with understanding when to start to charge people. So I think that's incredibly valuable. So we do. So
and if you have, I mean, I don't know what this means. This 31K followers and 1.6 million likes. How much of that is in your New York area, New York City and greater New York City area?
Yes. TikTok, it's very hard to get any of that analytical, those analytics behind the scenes. TikTok is very jealous of their analytics. But we do have a 6,000 person wait list. So that's actually real emails, people to gather for the beta test. What's wonderful about going out with community first is that it's geography agnostic. So you can be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Florida, California, and still be part of this because you aren't matching with people yet in your region. So it's a good way to get that engagement, to get that content going, and then to say, hey, we're opening up in New York. Do you want to meet people in New York? Are you willing to meet somebody in Tulsa? That could work. And then to roll out the hard launch of the dating and community in August. So that is the plan. So this is really a sort of a gut check on if people are interested in the mission and in the tone, in the philosophy, I think, of this new dating app. So if you go to the next slide, actually, you'll see some of the comments. So people say, you know, I've been happily and lovingly married for 20 years, or 30 years, and I'm now signed up for a dating app. So, you know, just to give a little color that people are excited for a paradigm shift in the dating world. So,
yeah, but that's actually, this doesn't convince me, Rachel. I've been happily and lovingly married for 30 years, and now I'm signed up for a dating app. What does that mean?
It's a joke. It's a joke. On these sort of Twitter things, people make these comments just to say, I'm so excited to participate in this new version of relationship building, skill building, and guidance. That, you know, it's more of a way to at least just take the temperature of people. Are they interested at all? You know, Tinder who, right? We don't need Tinder anymore. So I wouldn't dwell too much on this. It's just sort of to give a little bit of.
Yeah, that's a pitch feedback. I would not put that on the pitch, because then it starts eating up pitch time, pitch conversation time. I mean, that is not a convincing comment. Okay, fine. I'll give another dating app a chance. This is not flattering. This is not endorsement. So
Okay,
I would not put that on pitch.
Understood. So so here we are with we just hired 2 heads of community who are very experienced in building, so architecting and outreach. So we're excited for their plans to come to fruition. We're hoping to close a seed round in Q3, and then we have the alpha launch. So we're doing the beta launch in June, alpha launch in New York come Q4. So we'll get to the
assumption that you can seed fundraise in Q3 2022, unless you have a friends and family round lined up, is a flawed assumption.
Okay.
So
it's a guess. These are all guesses.
Very seriously.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, we can talk more. Let me go through the next 2 pictures, and then we can talk more in Q&A, okay?
Sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mohammad from Colombia, Bogota. Colombia is very high on my travel list. We were planning a trip, and then COVID completely scuttled that trip.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. You should definitely visit. I've been here for about 5 years and never thought of going.
Where are you from? You're not from Colombia?
I'm not from Colombia. I'm from India, from Bangalore. So I moved here about 5 years ago. And
why?
something just...
How come?
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
How did you end up moving to Colombia from India? That's an unusual move.
Technically, as a bit of a background, I'm actually a design and the system design and product design engineer working in different companies in India. And at some point, Sanman said, why don't you teach design and product design here in Colombia and help us start a company here? So I was having some ideas, moved in here. And since that time, I've been doing mentorships and teaching as a design and technology and product development mentor, along with developing these businesses.
Go ahead. Let's listen to your pitch.
To start, yes, this is mine. To start with, let me just say certain things before we move ahead. So to start with, Bill Gates once said that companies that build great carbon zero businesses, this is his words, will be the ones to lead the global economy in the coming decades. And as we know, the world, it's heating up, it's dying slowly. And the most important thing that can slow, stop, or even reverse these problems is creation of sustainable climate-friendly businesses and economies. Hi, I'm Mohammad Hussain, the Chief Technology Officer and the Systems Engineer for the Project Blue Treasures for the company Ecosystems Group Colombia. And we are here looking and talking to people to raise about $1.5 million for a convertible note of 15% to start the mass production of our ocean-derived cosmetics and methane-reducing cattle feed supplement for the American markets. Just to give a bit of a gist of what this market is all about, since we work with a lot of marine-derived and ocean-derived products, the commercial ocean-derived market size has already reached close to $40 billion. And it's up and growing in many countries across the world because this is a potential solution towards fighting climate change. And it has a compounded annual growth rate of 10%. all the way to 2030. And to give a little bit of local market context, since we are mainly based in Colombia, we focus on the first line of products, that is ocean-derived cosmetic products. And this specific market, since it's emerging, we looked into a reference of a related market, which is natural cosmetics market, which is about a 5% CAGR all the way until 2025, which is really good growth rate for these emerging natural or organic derived products. We plan to capture our market through our B2C model, focusing on some of the biggest and most popular e-commerce platforms like Mercado Libre, Linio, and Amazon, which already, by the way, have 1,300 climate pledged products as a part of their new model to support climate change businesses. And for further growth, we will be looking towards companies like Thrasio, the Thrasio model that will acquire companies which are already registered and have a great brand, our first party manufacturers in Latin America and North America, to grow our brand with the help of these companies. So coming back to the presentation, these are the biggest problems that we see in the world that we're not talking about, or we do talk about it, but there's nothing done about it. More than 130 countries have pledged towards a climate change solution, but hardly anyone has a roadmap, because businesses have to come in, step in, and corporations are the ones who can make a big change with the help and support of research. We're targeting 4 big problems.
Mohammad, I'm going to stop you for a moment. I'm having trouble with this presentation. And by the way, this is something that when I'm telling you giving you some feedback, some of it is also based on how the pitch is being received, you know, by somebody who is used to listening to pitches all the time, right? So Rachel, I saw your comments in the public chat about me not getting your social media tone. That is not the point. The point is you don't get the investor tone. If you put something up on a screen that has certain points, you want the investors to be excited about it. You don't want a lukewarm. You don't want something that is going to engage a lukewarm conversation with an investor. That's a waste of precious time. So coming back to you, Mohammad, the problem I'm having with this pitch is that what is this business? What business are we evaluating here? Is it the e-commerce business based on ocean
derived products?
Derived beauty products. Is that the business?
Yes.
Now you're giving me a lecture on climate change and greenhouse effect and cow parts. Hey, I don't want this pitch at this point of the story. You need to pitch an ocean-focused beauty product e-commerce business. Give me the story on that. Why you are doing ocean-focused e-commerce business doesn't belong at this stage of the presentation. Okay. I don't need a lecture on cow farts and greenhouse gases. You know, that is secondary. Your pitch should be about the e-commerce business that you're trying to build, right? All this other stuff is philosophy. You get 5 minutes to get the attention of somebody who's listening to your pitch. This is not the time. You can touch on philosophy in 1 second or 5 seconds, but you can't spend this much time and slide time on explaining the bad effects of climate change and you know, greenhouse gases.
Okay.
So,
cool.
So one thing, all of you who are listening to this discussion today should keep in mind is that you have 5 minutes of attention. How do you utilize those 5 minutes of attention to get the maximum relevant stuff across to the people listening to your pitch? Otherwise, you wasted those 5 minutes and you're going to be basically swiped out of the mind share. And that's not a good idea. So I don't need this greenhouse gas produced by cows. What has that got to do with ocean-derived beauty products? E-commerce business, ocean-derived beauty products. Slide after slide, you're giving me climate change lectures. It is a complete wastage of my time.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
If you were, see, to understand a little bit around, because I'm really thankful for the feedback. because since our project is a really strongly ocean-derived impact product, ocean-derived products impact project. So do we have to tell that story to people as to why is it important for us
No, but not
that we
this
do it?
much. You've already spent how many slides? Look at how many slides. One slide. You get one slide to explain why ocean-driven products. And then you figure out, then you tell the story of how are you going to build this business, this e-commerce business of ocean-driven. Where is that? Where is that? Where is the e-commerce business of ocean-driven products?
Well, it goes on. So we've already started working. We already have products registered and developed. The only thing we're looking for is financing for mass production, to put that in plain words. And in one of the slides, if we go forward, these are the locations where we're working with the communities and the regions in the Caribbean. These are the products that we already have. 6 of these products are already tested with the Dermatological Institute, and we have potential clients like big milk production companies, dairy farm companies, leather and meat production companies here in Colombia, who are interested in the methane reduction supplement, which will actually reduce methane among these cattle and bovine and ovine stocks. And coming to the cosmetics.
I'm the investor. Now you have to, whether I'm the investor or you as the entrepreneur should be thinking not about just who wants to produce this product. There's no benefit to having 10 products that somebody is interested in producing. You need one product that somebody is interested in consuming.
Okay.
And there's I've heard nothing so far. There's nothing in your slides so far about how this business is going to get built. So you need to make a complete adjustment in your mental set. This, now we are talking. Okay, Almar, organic cosmetic, ocean-driven cosmetic. Who's going to buy this? How are you going to sell this? Is it already selling? Do you have a product in the market? This is the pitch that I'm looking for. If I'm an e-commerce investor looking at this, yeah, I want to know why you're doing ocean-driven products, but I want to know how are you going to sell, how are you going to position, how are you going to sell, who is the competition? I know there are other products in this market. Whom are you competing with? What brands do you compete with? There is no chance you're going to be able to raise money with this pitch. Zero chance, absolutely.
So if we were to restructure, we keep the problem content short, then we grow directly into what we've built already, what our market is, what our products are, and how they differentiate in the market, and how we plan to sell them.
That's right. That is the business, right? Think about it. The business, if you're looking to raise money, if I'm an investor listening to this pitch, what do I care about? I care about how are you going to make me money? Not just how are you going to make money, how are you going to make me money? So remember, another kind of general thumb rule that all of you need to keep in mind as you are developing investor pitches, institutional investors want you to go from 0 to 100 million in 5 to 7 years. That is the ultra-fast growth revenue trajectory that investors look for. So that is not the only way businesses get built. In 1Mby1M, we have also supported a lot of bootstrap businesses. We continue to support bootstrap businesses. By and large, bootstrap first, raise money later works better in fundraising, so that if you can show that you're funding a business as opposed to a concept, that works better. These days, people don't, because it's inexpensive to build businesses, relatively inexpensive to build businesses. People expect you to build a business to a certain point and show validation, show some traction before you go out to raise money. So the pre-funding phase, the strategy for the pre-funding phase is really, really important, where you show proof points that your concept works, right? So, in your case, I would like to see one product of all this series of products that you show. I want to see one product that you can bring into the market, even if it's a small, size, small lot, and be able to sell it. So in this category, by the way, one thing that is working, especially where there's a mission-driven, broad kind of societal mission-driven angle to it. Kickstarter works and physical products. Kickstarter works. You could go into Kickstarter, make your pitch, take advanced orders, and then go get it manufactured and fulfill those orders. This kind of strategies show me how you're going to generate traction. In the case of the previous presentation, Rachel, one thing I would like to see if I were going to invest in this is to see who actually wants to pay for a subscription like this to get into this more, exclusive community, let's say, a more healthy, more mature community where the dynamics are more, sustainable, more interesting, more human dynamics rather than the swiping dynamic, which is shit, basically. So that's what I mean, if I'm in the dating market and I'm frustrated with that other model and you're presenting to me a healthy model, $19, $20 a month is not a big deal for me to pay for that. If you're going to introduce me to, high quality individuals who have a compatible mental set, this is not. And if they're willing to pay for that, that is validation to me. Okay? So,
most of it is about.
Mohammad, you got what I'm saying, right?
Yes, totally. So I'll have to figure out how short I can keep it and focus mostly around the.
Not only restructure the pitch, restructure your strategy even, right? One thing, as I said, you could consider going into Kickstarter and starting like an advanced product sale kind of thing and start selling one product that you then get manufactured and going. In physical products, Kickstarter has been a very good validation strategy. Kickstarter and comparables, other such platforms have been a good way to, crowdfunding has been a good way to test consumer products, especially that have sustainability angles and so forth. Let's listen to the next pitch. We have one more, and then we can come back into more discussion. Akib Usman, you are next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Awesome,
we can hear you.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks for this stage and this opportunity. My name is Akib, and I'm the founder and CEO of Pong. A little bit about me, I am a serial entrepreneur. This is my second company. Apart from being a minority, this is an American pitch. Apart from being a minority, I am also an immigrant entrepreneur. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I was born in the early 90s, and at this time, video games had a very short learning curve. You didn't really need to spend hours and hours and hours learning how to play a video game like you do now. You could just almost jump in and start playing near immediately with 1 or 2 rounds of playing. I remember my dad would come back home from work and he would start playing these video games that I'd spent hours practicing with near immediate accuracy, and we'd start competing against each other. Now, this time was amazing because you get to connect with people in a way that you can't right now. Video games have come a long way since that time, but they've come at the cost of accessibility and at the cost of simplicity. Video games have become far too complicated. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Pong. Oh no, let's go back. Yeah, right here. I'd like to introduce you to Pong. Pong is the world's first one-dimensional game console. It's a brand new way to play video games, and Pong's simplicity allows the games to live in a very intuitive, playable format. Users can play many different games, all on a single beam of light. Let's hit play on the video, please.
I don't think we can do that. You have to explain what you're doing.
Okay. That's going to make it a little bit more challenging. So we've created a brand new product, and it looks kind of like the images that you're seeing on the screen right now. It is an LED tube with handles on either end, and you can play multiple different games in this light tube. Let's go to the next slide. So Pong is extremely accessible. Whether you're a pro gamer or a casual gamer, whether you're 6 or 66, Pong is for you. And Pong is also portable, so you can take it anywhere you go. You can take it on your next camping trip, you can take it on your next adventure, take it to a family gathering.
It's not an app, it's a physical game.
It's a physical hardware product. We actually are manufacturing this in China, and I'm going to talk about Kickstarter and traction in just a moment on the next slide. So far, we've got about 50 million views across social media on TikTok and on Instagram. We've also run a Kickstarter campaign. So we are currently in the
Okay.
phase where we're going from uh, prototype to mass production, and we've raised $150,000 on Kickstarter to help us do that. We've been featured and mentioned in some of the world's most amazing publications, including Yahoo Finance, Gizmodo, Mashable, etc. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Before you go to the next slide, Usman,
Yes.
can you, sorry, Akib, right? You call yourself Akib, yeah? $150,000 is how many units?
So $150,000 is 1,500 units. So it's approximately a $99 to $100 average order value for us on Kickstarter.
Okay.
We are raising $500,000 right now, of which we've got about 170,000 committed already. This is going to be our pre-seed round, and we're looking to angel investors to write checks of about 10,000 or more. And next slide, please. That's it. That's our quick pitch. 3 minutes or less.
So yours is a funding pitch, and it kind of works actually. This as a funding pitch, this works. This, it's very short and very punchy and and you have a video where you can show the pitch, show the game and so forth. This actually works. What's missing here as an investor pitch is, what kind of demographics is adopting this, where, what is the total available market, what are we talking about, what are the comparables, what is the competition, what is the distribution channel, is this going to be purely people order online or from your website, etc. Those are the kinds of questions. What is the go-to-market strategy? Those are the kinds of questions that are missing. As an elevator pitch, this is an excellent elevator pitch.
100%. And I have answers to a lot of those questions. I just wasn't sure which version of the pitch we were going to do today, so I sent the shorter one. But I do have a lot of those answers in another presentation, and I could answer them verbally right now, or I could just come back next week and try again.
No, I will explain to you how to use 1 million by 1 million shortly. Actually, let me do that, and then we'll come back to more questions, more Q&A in a moment.
Sure.
So, folks, just so you know, 1 million by 1 million, as you can see, I'm not sugarcoating any feedback, right? I'm giving you direct feedback so that you can take that feedback and do something with it. You don't come here to get a pat on your back. You will get a pat on your back if you've done something well, just like I just, gave Akib a good pat on his back. But but that's not why you come here. You come here so that you can get genuine feedback and act on it. So everything resource-wise is at 1Mby1M.com. You can start following the blog. That's free and it's very rich. You learn a lot by just following the blog. The book series, Entrepreneur Journeys book series, is all case study-based books. And depending on what you're doing, what stage you're in, what you're looking for insights in, there are a dozen Entrepreneur Journeys books that you can play around with. These roundtables happen every week. You get to pitch here for free once. After that, for ongoing interaction, you have to be in the premium program. This is the 575th roundtable, so it's been a very long journey for us to work with entrepreneurs week after week after week. The premium program is where we do the actual acceleration program, the full coaching, we have private versions of these kinds of roundtables every week that you can come every week if you like to. People don't come every week because they have to work also. We discuss something, there's a strategy in place, and then you have to go do stuff. You're going to go learn stuff, you're going to go execute on stuff, you're going to go test strategies, etc. But nonetheless, we are available every week, multiple times a week for you to touch base if you need to and ask questions. Revise pitches, run models. TAM models is something that we run constantly. Comparative positioning models is something we run constantly in these private roundtables. The curriculum is very rich. We have 3,000 plus hours of curriculum, largely case studies and video lectures based. So you get to learn from other people who have done it before. If we have a proxy of what you are doing, we always point you to that, and you will find that in the methodology all over the place. where appropriate, we help you with business development. If there's, somebody that can help you accelerate from a channel point of view or customer point of view, we will make those introductions through our network. And of course, we help you with financing. We have a network of hundreds and hundreds of, well over 500 investors that we work with at different stages. So we emphasize greatly investor-entrepreneur fit. If you're looking for pre-seed funding, you shouldn't be going to a Series A investor because a Series A investor does not invest in pre-seed. And then there's categories, right? People invest in B2B, B2B SaaS, people invest in AI, people invest in B2C, people invest in prop tech specifically, people invest in insurtech specifically. We have all those different shades of investors, but we have to find you the set that is going to be interested in what you are doing. So we try our best to send you to people who are likely to invest in what you are trying to do. The self-assessment on our website is one that I strongly recommend you try to run on your pitch. So any investor listening to your pitch is trying to get answers to these kinds of questions, a generic due diligence questionnaire. And you need to, if you're preparing for investor pitches, this is something that I would strongly recommend you run yourself through. Our free bootstrapping course that is accessible from the top of our blog is a less than 1 hour course that I strongly recommend you internalize because that is based on what's happening in the industry today. And has been happening for the better part of the last decade. The industry has very much moved to this kind of bootstrap first, raise money later mode. So you do need to understand bootstrapping. We have released a lot of our methodology, not everything, but chunks of our methodology in about 30 Udemy courses that you can also learn from. They're very, very reasonably priced, and it's a very good starting point for your learning journey as well. Of course, you can go directly into 1Mby1M, and for $99 a month, you can access our entire curriculum. So go to the website, check around what to expect from basic, premium, FAQs, video FAQs, curriculum description. We are a case study-based program. We have over 1,000 successful entrepreneur case studies, including 100+ unicorns. And, it works. When you have, I remember we used to get a lot of pushback from people like, oh, solo entrepreneurs don't work. Bullshit. Solo entrepreneurs work very well. The founder of ServiceNow was a solo entrepreneur. We have his case study. Solo entrepreneur who has built a multi-$10 billion company, public company of global repute, global impact, global scale. Of course it works. So there's a lot of myths in this industry that over the last almost 20 years now that we have countered. I started writing my blog in 2005, and that's where I started this work. And today we are in 2022. 1Mby1M was launched in 2010. So it's been a marathon journey of, countering myths in our industry. The investor introduction page is something that I suggest you look at, where we explain how we work. We do make introductions to investors. That is one of the reasons why people come here, and in a very short amount of time, you can get introduced to 25, 30 investors, and almost nobody does that in the industry. So, in that sense, it's very effective, but you do need to be part of the premium programs to access that. Do not go to investors as beggars, go as kings is our mantra. That's when investments actually happen. So be aware of that. That is all. We have another roundtable in May, right before Memorial Day, and then we have every Thursday in June, 5 Thursdays in June roundtables. So come, if you're listening to it today and planning to pitch at a future session, please go ahead and register, and Maureen will schedule you to come. We can go back to Q&A. Anybody who has pitched or anybody who has listened today, please feel free to ask questions in public chat or by dialing in or by turning your computer audio on. However you want to engage is fine. While you're getting ready for that, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you want to join the program and if you have more questions, Irina is your contact person. Email her, irina@1Mby1M.com, and she'll work with you to answer your questions. All right. Who has more questions? Anybody? No questions. So everybody has got what you came here for. Okay, well, that was an excellent session. You are all doing very interesting things, and I think all of you are doing things that are viable, which is one of the first, steps that you have to go through is viability. Now the question is, after kind of establishing viability comes the devil in the details question of go to market and, putting one foot before another and getting, gradually building the building blocks on which you build a large successful business or even a small successful business. What is a successful business? Our philosophy is entrepreneurship equals customers, revenues, and profits. Financing is optional, exit is optional. If you do take investor money, you will need to go to an exit because that's how most of the industry monetizes for investors. There is another model, but it's not very popular in the tech venture world, which is the dividend model. But very few people, we have case studies of people who have used that, but it's a more rare model. So that is all. I will see you next week, and good luck with all your journeys.
I have a quick question about that. Where can I learn more about the other model, the dividends model?
We have a little bit of material on that in the program. We can, point you to that.
Okay.
If you're in the program, we can point you to that.
Got it. Okay, I'll dig around and I'll reach out.
You can go do a search on the website and see how much you can find on your own.
Okay, I appreciate this. Thanks a lot for your time.
You're very welcome. All right, folks. Good luck, everybody, and talk to you soon.